Welcome back, everyone. Getting ready to start quarter number 3, 2013 Scarlet and Gray spring game. Last year, of course, a significant year in the history of Ohio State football. The Buckeyes finishing a perfect 12-0, and 3 captains have returned to get their championship ring.
Well, you know, it's unfortunate, and this happens all too often in college sports, where you know, all of a sudden something happens and whoever was involved kind of moves on, and the players and the coaches that are following have to continually pay a penalty. And you think about this great Ohio State team going undefeated, and you know, arguably if they weren't on probation, they would have been playing for the national championship.
Well, Ohio State was officially the champion of the Leaders Division. And this is what the Leaders Division Championship trophy ring looks like. 3 players getting these rings right now. Travis Howard, Zach Bourne in the middle, and Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, John Simon.
And they did beat both teams that played in the championship game in Indianapolis. Talk about some great players, though, huh?
Looked like they had to roust John Simon out of a duck blind.
Well, if you had Urban Meyer sitting here, you'd say, yeah, they're great players, but what they represent more than anything was great leadership, and that's what he's looking for, these guys that still have the shoulder pads and helmets on today. Where is that type of leadership going to come from this football team?
Travis Howard, all Big Ten cornerback a year ago.
Well, we know what John Simon stood for, and you talk about Zach Bourne, I mean, offense, defense, huh? You know, and Dad played at Michigan. Mom ran track at Michigan or something, and he's at Ohio State. Brothers at Ohio State. Younger brothers at Ohio State. And Pickerton.
Not only guys getting these championship rings, but also getting those important gold pants that Ohio State Buckeyes received when they beat Michigan.
Well, you know the story how that all started, you know. Back way before I was born, Francis Schmidt was the coach, and Ohio State hadn't fared very well against Michigan. He got hired as the head coach. At the press conference, they say, how do you intend on beating Michigan? And he says, well, as far as I know, they put their pants on the same way we do, one leg at a time. Ohio State beat Michigan that year, and Gold Pants Club has started.
And one final round of applause, please, for your undefeated 2012 champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
May, something obviously you're a part of, but anyone who's watched Ohio State football over the years, a great appreciation for the history of Ohio State football in these parts. Last year was one for the ages, the 6th undefeated and untied season in school history, 12-0, an 8-0 run through the conference, and still with a whole bunch of guys coming back. You see 7 offensive starters, 4 defensive starters coming back, but that 4 defensive starters stat, that's not necessarily indicative of the type of talent that Urban Meyer has returning in 2013.
Yeah, you know, and again, they lost some great players last year, but they finished 6th in the league defensively. He's not happy with that.
Yeah, they gave up over 350 yards a game.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, they didn't start off the season playing great defense. I think when Urban first came here, the emphasis was always on offense. It's all they wanted to talk about. And all of a sudden, you know, I don't think that the defense was prepared to face all the multiple type offenses that they have to face in the Big Ten Conference. So if, I don't care who left, if you say to Urban Meyer, do you think we should be better than last year defensively? He would say yes. 6 isn't good enough.
This is the first time with the ball here in the second half for the Gray team, and it's going to be officially an incomplete pass. Kenny Guyton was the quarterback. Cardell Jones was lined out as a receiver. That was going to be a double pass, but Cardell Jones did his job. He caught the original lateral, and then tried to go over to Guyton. His pass was perfect. But Guyton just showing why he's a quarterback and not a receiver.
You know why? He took his eyes off it. He tried to run with it before he caught it. You catch the ball with your eyes, not your hands, with your eyes.
So it looks like this series is going to be taken over by Cardell Jones, redshirt freshman out of Troy Smith's alma mater. He's a Glenville Tar Blood, but he is considerably larger than Troy Smith was when he won his Heisman Trophy. Cardale Jones listed at 6'5", 241 pounds, and he is one of those players that not only Urban Meyer, but the offensive coordinator, Tom Herman, has been gushing about over the last couple of weeks.
I don't know if anybody that we talk to, all of a sudden, you start talking about the quarterback position. We know about Miller, we know about Guyton. Right away, they go to Jones. They say, man, this guy is something. He is a physical specimen like you can't believe, and he's young. Like you said, he's from Glenville by way of Fork Union Military Academy, and they expect this guy to really be good.
Maybe the biggest Ohio State quarterback since Jim Carsados back in the mid-'80s. He can run a little bit, too.
Well,
Cardale Jones gets out close to the first down marker.
Jim Carsados is big. I love Jim Carsados. He's a great quarterback. But Jones can run better than Carsados, I can tell you that.
If you're just joining us, Ohio State playing 4 10-minute quarters here in this one. No kickoffs, no punt returns, only fair catches. And the run from Cardale Jones is long enough for the first down. Something to keep an eye on, Cardale Jones. They love everything about him, how big he is, how strong he is, how fast he is in the arm. Consistency has been a big-time problem for him. Consistently throwing where he wants to and making the decisions that the coaches want him to make.
Well, in this offense that Urban Meyer runs, it's very complicated. You would expect that of a young guy. You just would. He hasn't had the experience. He hasn't had the reps. Anyway, you look at it, they're high him. He's still third on the depth chart. You can't keep giving 3 quarterbacks to, he might get 10% of the reps that are available.
And here is Jones. He does not have the black jersey on, folks, so he has to be tackled to the ground. He breaks the tackle in the backfield and has a first down. Let's go down in the field. Ashley standing by with John Simon. How's John doing?
Well, John, I have to imagine you're doing pretty well. You got the ring for the 12-0 season and the gold pants. What do those mean to you?
They're just symbolic for how great this season went for us, and it means a lot for us. Just all the adversity we had to handle when we came together as a close grip, close-knit team, and had a great season.
Well, pretty young defense this season. What sort of leadership advice would you offer them?
Some of the guys who are veterans on that line got to step up and do a great job, which I've been watching in the spring. They're doing a tremendous job with that. The young guys are stepping up, making some plays, especially today when it counts, and that's all you can ask for.
All right, what have you been up to? What's next for you?
Just training. Right now it's a waiting game for draft day, so I know the guys entering the draft are excited, and it's just a long process, and we're happy to have it coming to an end.
All right, best of luck with everything, John.
Thank you.
Eric, back to you.
Ashley, thank you so much. We wish John Simon all the success in the world in the coming years. Hopefully his dreams will come true in terms of professionally. But how about Eli Apple? Talk about 2 extremes. You got a senior in John Simon leaving, and now a guy who should be in high school right now making a wonderful play. Apple with the strip of Cardale Jones.
Yeah, he came off the corner. He made the play just like he did. He raked the arm. And again, I go back. We talked at halftime. If there's a disappointment today, I would think, is the pass protection of the offense. Quarterback has either been hit, hurried, harassed too many times today.
Eli Apple is one of 5 early enrollees for Ohio State. Only 4 of them actually going to play in the spring game. One of the early enrollees is a quarterback who is working on a knee injury. That's JT Barrett out of Wichita Falls, Texas. But JT Barrett is a guy who the coaching staff thinks has a real future as a quarterback at Ohio State. Speed sweep to Corey Philly Brown. These are the 5 early enrollees. We've seen a whole bunch of Eli Apple. Other corner that's an early enrollee is Cam Burrows. Told you that Barrett not playing because of a knee injury, suffered as a senior from Wichita Falls, Texas. And then a couple of defensive linemen, Tyquan Lewis, and then a kid out of Cleveland, Tracy Sprinkle from Elyria. What was your philosophy, Coach, when you had an early enrollee? Actually, did you have any early enrollees when you were head coach of Minnesota?
What do you mean by that? That has really been a situation that has really picked up momentum over the last couple of years. There used to be few and far between guys that would, graduate at mid-year from high school and go. Now it seems like every team has 3, 4, 5. And, Ohio State used to have an advantage when, at least I thought it was an advantage when they were on quarters, because some guys could take all the way to the springtime to graduate and be able to come in, be there for spring practice. And now obviously they got to be mid-year guys because they're on quarters. But
nice pitch rushing catch. Braxton Miller finds Devin Smith. That combination, once again, a big play for Ohio State.
That's the guy that they got to, that's a connection that they want to make sure is there all the time, because he's got great speed, and needless to say, Miller's got a great arm and he can put there. But get back to your point, I always had mixed opinions on it. It gives your program a big advantage, because you're getting these young guys in early to go through spring practice, and if you have a void at one of your positions, you know, obviously they're going to be better prepared than if they just came in August. In the long run, they're getting an extra spring under their belt. The other end of that, though, I think that, you know, sometimes we're all in a hurry to move to the new step. When I think back to my senior in high school, it's one of the greatest years ever, and all of a sudden you're leaving all your buddies, you can't wait to get to college, but you're missing those things, whatever they might be, senior prom, your senior year at track, senior year of baseball. So I got mixed opinions, to be quite frank with you.
Yeah, everyone else is doing it, though, so it seems like schools just trying to keep up with the Joneses. Second down after the throwaway from Braxton Miller. Remember, he cannot be hit, and he uses that to his advantage, runs it in. Third touchdown accounted for Braxton Miller. 2 passing touchdowns, and this a rushing score.
Well, we know he can do that. And that play right there, I don't care if he was live or not, they wouldn't have got him. He would have got that in the end zone. I want to go back to a point you made earlier, Eric, about the gold pants, and you called it history, I call it tradition. But when you talk about programs like Ohio State, they reek in tradition. And tradition is something, I think it's hard to define, but when you see it, you know it. And when you don't have it, you can't buy it. And you think about some of the great traditions they have here, whether it be the gold, you know, the gold pants, win the football. You think about the Buckeye Grove that they trying to plant a tree and name it after you. If you're an All-American, and the loser of this game has to clean the Buckeye Grove, spruce it up, cut the grass, and all that kind of stuff. The victory bell ringing at Ohio State, stadium. Even the tradition of what the band does all the time. I think they play the same songs. You just know what they're going to do. It's tradition, and it's great, and it lives on forever.
Now, part of that tradition at Ohio State, Zach Bourne, Terrence Howard, they're standing by with Ashley. Ashley?
Well, guys, you were just honored at halftime with the 12-0 rings. And Zach, I'll start with you. What does that mean to you?
It means everything. It's what our goals were at the beginning of the year, and for us to accomplish everything and win each game every week, it just symbolizes what a great year we had.
What about you, Travis?
It's just an honor. We worked so hard, and we knew that we couldn't go to a bowl game, so we kind of played with a chip on our shoulder. So these rings just mean everything, just because of everything we went through and the hard work and the tough games we played, and just to come out and just get these is just an honor today.
Is it a bit nostalgic for you to be here, spring game, pretty big crowd, and you're not able to be a part of it anymore?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, when I first walked in the stadium, it was kind of tough for me because of the fact that I'm used to playing these type of games. But, I'm just happy that just to be here and just to, come out and watch the younger guys play and perform.
And what are you up to now?
Now I'm just training for the draft. I'm actually here in Columbus just working out and taking a couple visits with a couple teams that has a couple workouts. So I'm just seeing where enjoying myself right now, just to try to embrace this moment until the draft day.
All right, thanks, Travis. And Zach, is it sort of nostalgic for you to be here as well?
Yeah, it makes me want to get to an NFL camp now and start playing football again. It just brings everything back, brings the adrenaline back. Even sitting here on the sidelines just makes me want to go out there and be on the field.
I have to imagine that's what you've been up to, is training.
Yeah, we have. There's about 6 of us who are training for the draft. They're training now, and a bunch of NFL guys came back, like Jimmy Cordell, James Laurinaitis, Bobby Carpenter, and guys like that who had just been training out with us. So we've had a great group, and we've been getting after it for the past couple months.
Buckeyes are sticking together, huh?
That's right. We always do.
All right, Eric, let's send it back to you.
Ashley, thank you so much. Ashley standing by with Zach Bourne and Travis Howard. He's got movie star good looks. I called him a movie star. I think I called him Terrence Howard. Why not? All right, after the turnover, Cardale Jones lost it. It was recovered by Joe Berger. Braxton Miller back on the field and catches a pass.
Yeah, they pitched it real quick, like an option was going backwards. As quick as he pitched it, you knew it wasn't going to be an option, and all of a sudden, here comes the quarterback out of the backfield catching the ball.
Mace, we've been talking about the fact that the Scarlet team is made up for the most part of the first team of the offense, while the gray team is made up of the first team defense. It appears as if the offense may be a little bit ahead of the defense. Is that Is that something maybe you've picked up on, or am I just making too much out of the 3 touchdowns scored by the Scarlet team?
No, I think you maybe you're making a little bit, but there's some big plays that are involved there. But, you know, as when you think about that front 7 on defense, what they lost, the amount of pressure that they put on the quarterback, you know, I'm impressed by that. And, you know, typically the defense will always be ahead of the offense. In spring practice, August practice, it's a little easier to put together because of all the assignments offensively. But other than the big plays, I've been impressed with what the defense has done.
Little check down, pass is complete underneath. Another catch out the backfield for Bryante Dunn, and he gets it inside the 10. That is his 4th catch this afternoon. We'll see how the Wolverines prepare for the 2013 season as we cover spring football from the University of Michigan. Coverage starts right after we are done here on the Big Ten Network. Flags flying as the ball is snapped. Pushed out of bounds is Devin Smith.
There's a penalty on that play, but, you know, in Urban Meyer's offense, you see that quick throw to the, you know, perimeter. You know, that's a high percentage pass, and in a lot of ways, I'm sure in his mind, those are runs. You know, we're lining up in a one-back set almost all the time. So those balls that we get on the perimeter, there's nothing more than throwing a pitch sweep, except you have fewer guys to block, and all those guys that are defending the inside run, they got a long way to run to try to help out on those runs.
I know he hasn't been hit, and he's not allowed to be hit, but I'm actually surprised that we've seen as much of Braxton Miller as we actually have. Goes a bullet back to the end zone, and it is incomplete.
Well, I think if you'd asked Urban Meyer that same question, did you tend to use him as much? I think he'd say yes, because he's going to say we have to work on our passing game, not just for Braxton Miller, but because of the receivers and everything that else is involved. And what better setting to do that than in a game situation in Paul Brown Stadium with a bunch of people there adding pressure on these guys that we need to perform under pressure. So I'm not really surprised at all. I would have been surprised if it was a live contest and they were tackling him, but his chance of getting banged up in these type of drills is minimal.
Was there ever a time in Ohio State football when the quarterback would have been live for a spring game?
Yeah, in fact, glad you brought that up. I remember one year I was assistant coach at Ohio State, and right at the end of the spring game, would have been 1984, Mike Tomczak was our quarterback.
Tomczak was live.
He was live, and we ran an option, and he broke his leg.
And that was the last time a quarterback was allowed to be hit in a spring game, probably.
I would think that's probably right, but anyway, we didn't know if he was able to come and play, be able to play the next year. In fact, he played the early part, maybe the whole year, but with a big brace on his leg, he actually kind of limped. We ended up going to the Rose Bowl, but I mean that was a touchy moment right there.
So Art Schleister was allowed to be hit in a spring game.
I'm not sure Art was. I don't know why we made the decision that year with Tomczak, but we did.
Drew Basil has attempted all of the field goals in today's game. He hits that one from 24 yards out. Well, you'd imagine Braxton Miller is going to be lumped together with Johnny Manziel quite a bit as the fall rolls along. Johnny Football winning the Heisman Trophy last year. And a similar style player. Johnny Football doing it, of course, in the SEC with Texas A&M, while Braxton Miller doing it against Big Ten competition.
Well, he's awful exciting, I can tell you that, and obviously he's a great player, and he's kind of a riverboat gambler. You see, he'll sometimes Brett Favre, he'll throw back across the middle to try to make plays, but the thing that Braxton Miller and Johnny Manziel brings to the table is they can take nothing and turn it into a great play because of their athletic ability.
Do you expect these two to be probably the two front runners for the Heisman in 2013?
I think coming out of the gate that they've got to be. And, you know, the thing that really has to happen, you know, it's an individual award, but it's so tied to team achievement, you know, and, you know, typically if you're having a great year and your team continues to win, and that's why I was surprised when you think of the the year that Braxton Miller had, and his team went 12-0, and he finished his 5th in the Heisman Trophy. There's something wrong there, because I really, if he weren't in probation, I don't know if he would have beat Manziel or Manziel would have beaten him, but they probably would have been 1-2 either way.
That's a different era, but back in 1989, the great Andre Ware won a Heisman Trophy at Houston when they were on probation. They weren't on television once the entire year, but Andre Ware still won a Heisman Trophy, and I think those days are long gone. You're not on TV, you're not getting that exposure. People are just going to turn the other way.
Yeah, with John Jenkins, even back then, with John Jenkins being the coach, those numbers that they put up were phenomenal. But when you get to see somebody with your eyeballs, you start hearing about a guy like Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M, and then all of a sudden you see him playing, making some plays, and you think, wow, A&M is not winning this game without him, I can tell you that.
So the great team has the ball once again on offense, and I'd imagine the most important thing in the life of Cardale Jones, number 12 in gray for Ohio State, simply hold on to the football. He had a fumble his last time out. Joe Berger knocking it away. If you're a quarterback in any school in Division I football, you turn that football over in the spring game, and for the rest of the day, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle to try and get back in the good graces.
There's no doubt. If you're not protecting the football properly, in my terms, I used to talk about, you got to carry the ball high and tight. You just got to do that, because I don't care how hard you squeeze it. If the rear tip of that ball is sticking out, it can be a fumble. Now, sometimes you can be protected and you get just hit just exactly the right way. Someone has their helmet running the ball, it goes. But if you're not protecting that football correctly, there's no excuse for that.
For a guy like Cardale Jones, who is definitely the third stringer heading into fall camp, how much opportunity does he actually get during spring ball, having to split reps with not only Kenny Guyton, but Braxton Miller, of course?
Not enough is the answer. And the thing about it is, it's not the quality reps that you'd really like, because in developing a quarterback, you're so dependent on the supporting cast. You want to be taking those reps with the good guys. The offensive lines and protection, the receivers know what they're doing, the backs know the blitz pickup. And when you have Braxton Miller and you got Kenny Guyton, they're taking, they don't even split it. I would have to think that Braxton Miller probably gets 80% of the snaps, and then all of a sudden, if you want to take some snaps for Jones, you're stealing from Guyton, and Guyton might have to be your starter. So it's awful difficult.
Urban Meyer, you see him far left part of your screen. Now he just ducked out, but he has been in that exact spot every single play, about 6 yards behind the quarterback, looking at the decision-making process for Cardale Jones, Kenny Guyton, and Braxton Miller.
Well, you hear coaches say it all the time. You got the worst seat in the house. When you're standing on the sideline, you really can't see very much. And that's why come spring practice, that's why I used to do the same thing when I coach. You get back there, you stand behind the offense, and you can get a great feel of what went on during this scrimmage, during this game, during this practice, both offensively and defensively, because you can see what happens.
On 2nd and 1, just classic Ohio State power football. Warren Ball with the carry. We've seen nothing but Warren Ball and Bryante Dunn running the football today, and that's expected. Carlos Hyde, close to a 1,000-yard rusher a year ago, not scheduled to play at all today. And Rod Smith, his backup, has been dealing with some concussion issues. He is out as well. But those guys are proven commodities. But the third guy, Ball and Dunn, kind of fighting it out for those spare possibilities of playing time come fall. Looking for the deep ball, incomplete.
You talk about Carlos Hyde, and he's not playing today, but well, when I watched him play last year, I don't care what offense he plays, when he gets going, those linemen give him some running room. You're talking about a guy that's 6 foot, 242 pounds. He says he wants to trim down this year a little bit, maybe lose 5 pounds. What's the difference? But 242, gained 970 yards last year. He really has a personal goal. He says, I want to be that 1,000-yard gainer in this offense that Urban Meyer's never had as a running back, and he'll be a force to reckon with.
Yeah, it was this time last year that Ohio State really didn't know what they had with Carlos Hyde. He proved his worth during the fall with Big-time grounded-out games in that Buckeye 12-0 season. All right, double zeros once again. We have made it through 3 quarters of play here in the 2013 Ohio State Scarlet and Gray spring football game. We still have 1 more quarter left to play. We'll be back to Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio in a moment. You're watching the Big Ten Network.